let me start by sending my prayers and wishes to Coach Kill. I had the opportunity in 2003 to coach against a Jerry Kill football team, and there's no question that the football world is going to miss him on the sidelines. He's a class act to the greatest degree, and somebody I enjoyed being around, although we did not get an opportunity to compete with him since he's been at Minnesota. Questions?
You get a chance to know him at all, just from some of the Big Ten coaching stuff?
Sure, yeah, I got a chance to know him a little bit. The Big Ten meetings, and it's always an education for a young head coach when you hear somebody speak up and you watch the older head coaches listen. And when Jerry gave his opinion, everybody took note of it, and it was always well thought out. And again, just a class act in every way.
I noticed Darius is out here almost coaching or whatnot. I mean, what's the value to having him out here rather than inside doing his own rehab?
Sure, yeah. Sometimes we do that, and other times when we can get the rehab work done around the practice schedule, it's good to have him out here. He's one of our captains. He's one of our leaders. You don't see what he does in the meeting rooms and things like that, but to have his presence on the field, one of the things he's always done very well is hold people accountable, which is a tough quality for a young person when you're with your peers. He's always done a good job of that, and I think he does a good job of making sure he does that with the younger players. It's good for those young guys who haven't really seen him play as much to hear his voice out here.
How unusual is it to have a guy, because I feel like injured guys are usually kind of out of sight, out of mind. How unusual is it to have him out here so involved?
Never really out of mind for us, but I understand what you're saying. You guys don't see him out here. But it's unique. Yeah, we don't do it a lot, but I think it's a unique situation. A two-time captain, somebody with his resume. If he can be out here helping us drive the tempo of practice, I think it's good.
Okay, when it comes to Leonte, how do you measure? Do we want 6 games of him at whatever, 75, 80%, or do we want to rest him and do maybe 4 games at 100%?
It really just comes down to what the doctors tell me. I have to lean on the medical professionals because they're the ones who've been through this, and they've had situations like this in their past, and I take their advice and then I lean on that, and there's always a certain part of it with the player himself. How does he feel? Does he feel like he can perform? Because regardless of what the medical people say, if a player doesn't feel like he can perform, then he can't. So that a little bit is the player, and a lot of it is the medical people.
Do you have to take Leonte maybe with a grain of salt, because you know that he always wants, he's always going to tell you he can play?
Well, the player component is just, do they feel like they're ready to play? Are they mentally in a place where they're ready to play a football game? If they are, then we go to the medical side of it and we see what they say.
Coach, what do you tell a guy like Carlton, who might play the whole game this week? What do you tell him during a week of practice?
Tell him what we tell everybody on the team. You better be ready to be the starter. You have to be ready to be the starter, because whether it's the first play of the game or in the fourth quarter when you enter the game like you did at Indiana, you have to perform like a starter. So he's been there before. He's done it for us, and he's important to us. He knows that, and he's doing a good job.
How's Derek Nelson done just in terms of line calls and all that protections and everything?
Excellent. I think Derek's performance this year has been very good from a mental standpoint, and it's although a new starter, somebody who's been in our system now for 3 years, and I think that always helps.
Now, if there is a need for a silent count, what's the biggest challenge with that, this kind of crowd?
From what everybody tells me, there will be a need for a silent count. This sounds like it's one of the, you listen to the other players in the Big Ten and at media days talk about the loudest environments in the Big Ten, and this gets referenced quite a bit, the environment at Camp Randall. So we're expecting to need a silent count and to use one. I think nowadays offenses have evolved to where it's not really unique anymore. It's something we practice a lot. We're starting in training camp, and I think we function well with it, so I'm not concerned about it.
On special teams, you talked about how you wanted to see better performances after last week. Do you devote more time to that in practice because of it?
You really can't. The time is the time, and when you get to this point in the season, there's only so many reps that the players have in them. So it's not a matter of devoting more time. I think it's just a matter of being a little bit more precise and making sure that we're giving them everything that they need in practice to prepare for the game. I think we are, and now the players got to respond.
Coach, what can you say about Tanner McEvoy, what we've seen on film and then maybe back in recruiting came out of our cap?
Well, in the recruiting process, he wanted to be a quarterback. And so that's really the most of what I remember about that situation. But I know this: they think very highly of him. They're the ones that are working with him on a day-to-day basis because they're playing him on defense, they're playing him on offensive receiver, they're playing him on offensive wildcat. So when you do that with a player, you're devoting a lot of time during the week to that player, and you only do that if you feel like he's an absolute difference maker. So there's no question that's what that staff thinks.
2 more questions.
Thank you, man.